Seeing some S17 plus hashboards that have the zero ASIC issue. This is a common issue with the boards. Often people will ask us, is this something you can fix? And obviously, yes, it is one of the main issues we'll see with your hashboards. And so we got this customer here that brought us some very good looking S17 plus hashboards to fix. They're good looking, but they're not working, so they're not useful. That said, when you do have those things that are stuck like this, but that they are really, resilient, it's already looking like a pretty good repair to do, because one of the main pain points of the 17 series is the delaminated chips, and then fixing the signal. Signal really, most of the time, will break because of a fallen heatsink. In that case, this dashboard has all its heatsinks. The batch from that customer, actually, most of the dashboards have all their heatsinks. Very, very few are delaminated. So this is good looking for a quick fix, a quick repair for them. They are zero ASICs. What zero ASICs stands for, essentially, it just means that your dashboard is, or let's reverse that. Your control board is not able to communicate with the parts on the hashboard. So it's not able to tell, am I getting to 10 chips? Am I getting to 20 chips? Am I getting to 40 chips? It's not able to tell anything because it's not able to communicate with that hashboard. So zero ASIC is just means that, really. So most of the times you'll look again at RX problems, so probably RX breaking somewhere on that board, maybe more than one place. It can be power distribution, it can be related to the PIC here. So now I'm plugged to my tester. I haven't worked on that board as of yet. I just plugged it. What we can go ahead and do right away is try to flash the EEPROM, but I believe the PIC is going to be good since we're able to fetch the data from it. So still, let's have a look quick. And I can see on my screen, you can't see on your end of the screen, but I can see that the flash went through successfully. So now this board has a new EEPROM written on, and it's all done so properly. So we can obviously go ahead and measure that area here and measure the 3.3 volt of the PIC. But what I always do, really, especially on S17 Plus, is I'll just start the test, look for RX, between those two domains here, and if I can see it, well, I know for sure that my problem is not at the power distribution level on that side of the board, and so I'm going to be looking if my RX breaks somewhere else, or if it's breaking because of an LDO that's not feeding the 1.8 volt line that we need for RX to work. So let's get started. So right away, my power supply, lab power supply is already powered on. So right away, let's just start the test and see what we get. It should be a zero ASIC because I already tested to see the reply from that board. And it's the only thing I did so far. And yes, we got zero ASIC. So let me bring the multimeter on screen for now so you can see. And we'll be going back to that format where the multimeter is embedded in the screen. We're just finalizing some stuff here to have better edits than we used to. Let me see. I just want to, and that is exactly the thing I want to avoid, is to avoid to have that, like I don't remember how we call that again. I think it's glare or something like that. So obviously we want to avoid that on the screen so you're able to see. This we can bring to unlimited. We don't need that to stop. Okay. And start again. All right. So I'll need, on my probe here, I'll need some extension. And let's get started. So let's see between those two domains here. And we have nothing here. Oh, wait. Yeah, we do have 1.7 here. Oh, it's looking actually like the board just woken up. So those are really, really fun because most of the time the issue is more intermittent. And when I mean fun, I'm obviously being sarcastic, because when the issue doesn't want to show off, it's not always easy to figure out what's the actual problem. Now let's try to pull some more serious data from that board and get the temp sensors show on the screen as well. We might see some break. So I'll be doing a short and sweet stream today because, again, like all my previous streams, I do enjoy doing that. We get all the temp sensors there. Let's give it a running shot here a bit. Um, so I do enjoy doing those streams, so I'll do one quick today, but I don't have so much time either, so I'll probably have to do a time myself, 1 hour, 2 hour stream max. But later during the day, Ahmad is going to jump on again for another stream. He plans to work on the T17E hashboards. I believe we didn't get a stream about those so far. We did make some streams about S17 Plus so far, but I haven't myself done one. So I wanted to up on a stream and do one. Now this board, let's put it aside. Let's let it cool down and test again and see if we're gonna be able to figure out some issue on there. Got it. Thank you. All right. Hey Michelle, how you doing? Let me just cover the customer name here. So we label every parts, every unit that get into the shop. So obviously when we get on stream, we either remove those or cover those because we don't want to leak any private information. Here we go, and let's see if we can use that to hold it so you can see on the screen. Maybe, yeah, perfect, perfect. So let's try to plug this one. Do have a decent batch that came in for those S17 Plus dashboards. I think it's well, it's not crazy, but for retail, it's a good batch, 10 units, something like that. And I've been saying for a while now, I mean, in retail customers has been better customers for us than institutional miners. We did have two institutional miners as customers, and both are in serious liquidity crunch right now. Obviously, their repairs aren't flowing as much as they used to do. We used to do pallets and pallets per week. Now for institutional miners, it's a beauty if we do one pallet a week. While retail customers, they still consume our service fairly decently, and I include in retail customers any like small and mid-sized miner against say institutional where you have multiple tens of megawatts of capacity. So at the moment, you can feel the pain from the institutional miners, and obviously it does have its impact on our business as well. So we'll see how all of this evolves. But in the meantime, we still have our retail customers that are, you know, that have been very good to us. Okay, so this one is giving me 0 ASIC, so let's go ahead and see if we can measure something on that. Yeah, again, what the hell is happening there? So this might look like a quick reflow case for those boards, and I was saying they're very good looking. Already, obviously, they weren't that clean. I cleaned them all by myself with the ultrasonic cleaners. So we did clean all the dashboards. So it's looking like maybe we just need a reflow for this. Is this the same board? No, I actually put the other board on the side for it to cool down. This board is also giving me the temperature sensors there. One more thing we can do before let's just try to find a board that has an actual issue. But before we do, let's just try to lower the voltage. So right now I'm at 19.4 volts on my laboratory power supply. What I'll do is I'll slowly decrease my voltage and try to see if there's any fault that I can find. Because most of the time, those issues, when there are 0 ASICs and getting all green at once, and they're even replying to the advanced test, most of the time it's going to be some very, very little value that is off. And by decreasing the voltage, we might get that chip to give up, and we'll be able to figure out which is the weak in the chain. What's up, Yeti Crab? How are you today? Well, I'm doing good, man. Despite the market that's been taking more and more hits, it's hard to keep up with, but it's we've been doing that since 2016, so it's not our first rodeo as well. But this time it feels this bear market it feels strong for sure because you do have a lot of institutional miners that are giving up this time. So, and I think from what I hear, we'll be hearing from more institutional miners giving up very shortly. So for sure, the landscape is special. We have all that excess inventory that's sitting in boxes, even like S19 series. A lot of them are like at least I'd say at least dare to say at least 100,000 of those ASIC miners are still looking for a home because hosting is really getting crunched as well. You have those energy prices spiking everywhere, and you have the mining profitability decreasing, and that's a very special dynamic. And so you have a lot of excess inventory right now that's not even plugged. So yeah, it's very it's to follow. Question from Meshal. The LDO output is zero point 0.8 instead of 1.8. What do you think is the cause? Well, first, you'd need to look at your input of that LDO. You can also look at the surrounding resistance, make sure and compare against another domain that the resistance values are good. And if that remains, it is possible that you have some kind of short on that domain. So you would have to find the chip that's, most of the time it can be a chip. It can also be capacitors. I've seen that capacitors on the 1.8 line that shorts. So look at the capacitors on the 1.8 lane and look at the chips that are on the way. Yeti Crap asking, saying, really enjoying your videos and I happy you enjoy. So we'll keep on doing those more and more. So this board just doesn't want to give up. I'm at 16 volts now. Let's try to decrease even more. And we might be onto something. All right. So now I'm at 15.5 volt. Test is still running. Let's go ahead and see what we can measure. So this here is still good. RX here is weak. So we know the problem should be between those two domains. Let's go ahead here, 1.7. So this it should be on this domain that we have an issue. Let me go and see. 1.7, 1.7, 1.7, 1.7, and final but not least, 1.6. Oh, I think this one was lower though. And all the other chips are giving me 1.7. This one is moving a bit. It's something that I've seen, even though it's close, especially when it's moving like that. It might be this chip that's really just bad enough for the board not to work. And if we go back to this one here, see stable 1.7 here. But if I go down one, keeps on moving. So makes me think this chip might be, you know, working, not working, working, not working. And so this is what we're seeing. This is why decreasing the voltage is allowing us to find some sick chips there. Let's try to decrease just a bit further and see if we can get something decisive. So we're now at 15 volts. Let me go back one chip up here. Still at 1.7 and pretty stable still. Remember, we're now at 15 volts, so it's normal we start to see some instability. But this chip is even more out. So let's try to keep this here and see if we decrease even further. Can we get it to give up? I'm now at 14 volts, and you can see the noise coming out from that chip. Pretty flagrant. Let's go back to the one just one step up. You see, even this chip is starting to be a bit unstable now. 1.7. Yeah, so we got instability everywhere now. So the first chip we managed to find that instability is this one here. So this is the one we'll change and we'll try to see what it says after. All right, let me read quick the comments there. So, how can I know which capacitor is bad for the LDO? Well, you can look for shorts. So just use your negative probe, to ground yourself on the board, ground to the board ground, and use the other one with continuity and try to measure both sides of the capacitor. Only one side should be ringing because only one side should be connected to ground. So that's one way. You can also measure the continuity on your capacitors. You can, what else can you do? I know there's a trick the guys are using a lot of times. Let me try to remember. Obviously, you could also use diode testing where you measure. So let me bring the microscope there. So see those capacitors, right? What, I'm not on the right one. This one here. Is that the one? No, this one here. All right. So say you look at those capacitors here at the bottom of the domain, right? So those two capacitors are your 0.8 and 1.8. So you could look at the diode measurement, and if there's a short on that domain, it should show up on your diode test. So those are some tricks you can look for. Yet Gradual offer a repair toolkit someone could buy to get started. I was trying to look on your website and it seemed like parts of it were down. The website, parts of the website are down. Let me go and see. Website seems to be loading fine for me. Um, it's loading last night. Uh, I've been working a lot on the website, so it's possible you were visiting when I was uploading some changes. I wouldn't know. I did work a bit on the website yesterday, and I work on the website mostly at evening and night because I'm doing this from home. So it's possible it would make sense. That said, we do offer repair toolkits. There are some stuff that are listed on the website. There are some stuff that we don't list on the website, so you can always reach out to us through support@decentral.tech for us to make a custom code for you. And obviously, anything you think is missing from our shop, just let us know and we'll add it. Um, we have most of that stuff is just creating the listing, and we've been putting more and more of the listings online with the website. One more thing I've been doing is all those parts is really hard, when you buy a part to understand exactly on which board it can be useful or which location, so which side of the board you're going to need that part for. And so I started to add into the description that's on the bottom of the page, of each product page, started to put some locations for the chips. So for instance, let's say you want to change a CT1F. Well, there are those two here, so you'll have a U1, U2 on S17 Plus. Um, Looks like it's working now. Good stuff. Amazing. So let's go ahead and do that change and see what it says. So we'll try to keep a good view on the area we're working on. All right. Obviously, not only do we offer the parts and the toolkits, but we also offer the training. It can be done remote. It can be even done on site on your site. So if you're an employee or if you're an employer from a mining facility or even another repair center that's establishing, we've been helping one that's here in Canada. So it's something we look into, we look forward to. Really, our mission is to establish ourselves as obviously a leading ASIC recycling and repair center. But we understand the reality that there's going to need to be more than just us in this industry, and so we really are open for collaboration, helping each other out, helping the other repair centers get settled as well. And we have plenty, like hundreds of each of the parts you might need, and so this is where we can come in also to help. So we do the training, we do everything, and if you need any parts, we have those parts available for you. They're available either on our shop or you can contact us for a custom quote. And so this is where the dynamics are interesting for us because it becomes all self-fulfilling. You have the customers that need the repairs, we do it. Sometimes we have trade-in programs like our Ash for Cash program. Some of the boards are going to be bring boards. We're going to trade those for parts, make those parts available for us or for customers. For instance, this chip I'm going to be installing right now is a recycled and retinned BM1397 chip. This chip used to be delaminated. Well, we have a process where we retin the chips and they essentially look like new, as you can see here. So it's really really interesting, and it's miners are always been shown as the big bad guys for the environment, but I think this is the exact thing to do for the environment, where we recycle and give a new life to each and every of the components. And you remember, I always put a little bit of just a little pressure on top of the chip while it's getting seated on the board. So all the flux that's under the chip, all the excess crap that's under the chip can come out on the sides, and it gets a very clean soldering. All right, looking good. Is there any plans to do a video on PyCoBT? There is actually, and I believe we already did some footage on the PyCoBT because we want to do a tutorial, that's not necessarily during the live stream. But we did do a tutorial on PyCoBT. It's still uh, going through the editing phases. What I can do though is maybe I can go and grab one of the PyCoBT here and use it just to show you the diagnosis real quick. So we'll let this board cool down a bit, put it on the fans there, and let's get the other, that first board we took that was doing the exact same behavior. Let's try to find the weak chip too on this one. Or should we try another board maybe? Yeah, let's try another board, see if we have a real zero ASIC issue there. And worst comes to worst, we'll get back to the other board, that intermittent signal. So again, I'm just covering up the customer name there. All right, here we go. Um, for some reason, it just all came to the screen at once. So again, I'm pretty sure this pick is working. Let's flash it and see. I already had a quick visual inspection on those boards, and they were looking pretty good. Um, let's see. I realized that some of the boards, though, they did have some notes here on the board, so it makes me think that somebody at least opened those machines, at least made some diagnosis, write it down there. I don't know if there were some prior repair attempts on those boards. Um, doesn't look like there was, so at least if there was, it was properly done. So that's a good sign. You can start the test. So the PIC got reprogrammed there successfully, and we're getting to 65 to start with. So it looks like those boards they were needing a good cleanup. So that probably helped. Oh, and you want to know the fun part is I actually forgot to put my power supply back to 19.4 volts. And right now I'm testing at 14 volts, and it's so far it's going through. So this is very interesting. Aha, here we go. Are we able to get it there? We don't even get return out of this one. Let's try to increase voltage and see if it shows up. Alright, so let's just stop that test, get back to 19.4, and we'll decrease to try to find the faulty chips. It's more useful that way. Alright, so start again. Obviously, if we were passing at 14 volts, we should be passing at 19.4. This is good. Advanced with temp sensors on. Advanced test with temp sensors. From 4 temps. All right, so obviously now if we come and measure this here, all right, so see what's happening there? Let me explain that. So I'm going and measuring my RX against that ground here, but sometimes the chips, so the chip is let's take a chip. So this is the size of a chip, right? You have this side here, but you also have on the side right here. And what I mean to say is that inside going through the chip, there's a small lane that's going and touching the top, and that lane is a ground for the chip. And so the ground of this chip is going to connect to the domain ground. And so obviously when we make our measurements, when we come and touch the top of the heatsink, what we're actually doing is through the heatsink going and connecting to the ground of the chip on the top of the chip that's going to the bottom of the chip to the ground of the domain. So that's what we're doing, and sometimes we come and do our measurements like that, and that would make me think, oh, my 1.8 is absent. But if I just go one chip higher, I get 1.8 for my ground, but I'm still on the same RX. What's happening there? So the issue there is that probably the small, very small wire that's inside that chip connecting the bottom ground to the top ground of the chip is broken. But the chip is still working. And we can see that it's still working if we use another ground here and come and measure our RX, which is right there. So we know our 1.8 is going through. And so it probably means that when we were measuring before, even at 14 volts, and let's try to decrease that now to 16 to start with. We actually add our 1.8. It's just that I ground myself on a chip that didn't have any working ground. Yeah. So this is still here. So let's lower even more. Let's go to, there you go. It starts to break. Yes. Perfect. That's what I want. I want it to break. I want to see where it breaks. 1.8. So let's go here. 1.7. 715. Oh, so something's happening on that domain. You can see the same kind of instability we had with the other board. So let's go ahead and try to figure and pinpoint that out. So 1750 is pretty stable here. So we know now that the issue should be in this domain. 768, 768, 1766. Seems to source on the one just on top here. Yeah, I would say this one is the one where I see the instability start to show up. And so those boards, they can be tricky because they're actually working. So it's hard to fix something that looks like it's working, but we know that there is going to be some issue, something weak on those boards, and we know that because whenever we decrease the voltage, we're able to start and provoke that that weak chip to start and give up. So whenever this hashboard will be installed in a unit, um, if it has any weak chip, whenever the board is gonna start to get hot and running for 10, 20, 30 minutes, you'll start to get hardware errors, you'll start to get some problems and maybe even the board shutting down. And it can be all sorts of issues that are going to show because the unit won't be able to pinpoint them. One of the best ways um, of diagnosing an intermittent hashboard into a unit is by using, say, Vnish or BrainsOS and use their chip map function and try to see which chip is not giving out hash rate. So it's something we should do a video about shortly as well. There's so much stuff to see and review about mining and mining repairs and everything. We, I've been doing that almost every day since 2016, and I have a hard time keeping up with like everything and to to pick and choose what we should be talking about and showing because there's so much. So let's go ahead and install that. My pleasure, RS. Right, so we've got a bit of excess tin that formed there. I think I need to add, yeah, let me just do that quick. So add my iron there and go and grab the excess solder. Add some flux. Wait a bit. There you go. So I just removed the excess thin blob that I had coming out of the recycled chips there. So let's just eat again, just make sure everything is properly set. And we'll put this board to cool down and test the other one we worked on so far and see if we managed to pinpoint the real issue or no. All right, looking good. If you want to see the install there. So this would be the one on top. Let's go in and zoom and you can see the install there. I think it's pretty decent, pretty good, looking good. So let's just give a quick cool down, make sure everything is in place, well set, and we'll test the other hashboard. All right, so let this one cool down, put it on the cooling pad I got right there, and test the other one we worked on. So let's go back to 19.4 and decrease from there. So first of all, let's see if we created any new issues with our manipulations. We'll do a normal test for that, and we're getting 0 ASIC there. So let's start right off the bat and look at the area we worked on. And something is not right. So it's really that chip that I installed that is not either not working or either um, misinstalled. I didn't hit any parts around. All right, so let's just put some flux and replace again. That happens from time to time. How long do I keep the dashboard under testing mode before it totally eats up? Well, it obviously will depend on the dashboard type. For instance, the latest boards, the 19 series, D7, L7, I wouldn't keep them too long under voltage testing. So I prefer to work with the diode testing on those models and only use voltage once I want to test against my diode measurements and fixes I've done. So if everything passes diode, then I'll test voltage and I'll do it for a very short amount of time on those newest gens because they draw a lot more current, they eat up a lot more, and obviously they're class 3 type boards like high performance computing, so they're eating a lot of current. That said, even 17 series is pretty decent in the density that's being used. But I'm more comfortable letting at least 30, 40, even sometimes 50 rounds on the 17 series before stopping my test. So, but really it depends also on how you're equipped. If you do your testing and you have two fans blowing 2000 RPM each under your hashboard, you're going to be able to do a thousands of those signal rounds without no issue for your hashboards. But if you have 500 RPM fans under, those are more comfortable because they do much less noise, so they're better to work with if you have a lot of people working in the area. But the board will be able to take, say, 100 rounds before it gets too hot, and you put it aside, let it cool down, and bring it back after. So this is why you want to have rotations. You want to work on more than one dashboard at once. Normally I do 2 or 3 dashboards rotations, and I rotate between them. So whenever I do work on one, cool it down quick, put it on the cooling pad, take another one, do whatever I need to do, get to the other board, and so on. That should be a good chip. So already I can tell this board is at least very good looking because we did some testing for the heat sinks. But one more thing I can tell from experience is whenever you work on an area with some heat like that, if the surrounding chips are delaminated, believe me, the heat sinks they'll give up just with you working on that area like I was doing. And so, but they're staying tight there. So this is very good looking for this board. It means that the board overall is not too sick. All right. So we'll need to cool down that board again before testing. But hopefully the other one, let me see. Yeah, the other one is now warm enough for us to test it. Right. So let's say about that one. We know the install was good. We looked at the microscope and it's still looking good for me physically. So we'll see if that um, will do it. So let's start with a simple test. We just want to have a chip count. We should be getting to 65. getting to 65. So at least we know the install is good. We know the chip I've installed is at least working for that. But we do have some noise showing up on the board now. And we're at 19.4 volts. So what we'll do whenever it starts to jump like that, and it supports that these boards might just need a very good reflow, because when you see that kind of behavior, a good reflow will most of the times take care of it. But before we jump to the reflow, um, let's just try it again and see in advanced mode what we get. Because sometimes it can also just be your RX signal that's weak somewhere, and that's creating all that noise we're seeing there. Let's jump before where we worked, and now even at 19.4 my RX is low before the area we worked. So let's try and see if we can pinpoint the source. Oh, it actually looks like the chip I couldn't ground on top of before is now shooting uh, way too low um, juice there. So let's go. So that's a 2 on 2 strike. I mean, the chip not only does it not have the ground on top, but now I get a bad measurement that seems to be reflecting everywhere. So we'll go ahead and change the 65, and that's something to keep in mind. Sometimes your zero ASIC problems. I mentioned power distribution. I mentioned RX braking. Sometimes when you bash your head and you're not able to find, it can be the first chip or the last chip as well. Those two chips are very, very critical in your hashboard um, functioning. And especially with 17 series, sometimes you don't want to ask yourself too many questions, and you just want to hack and go ahead and try and change the chip. And it doesn't matter that much really, because whatever chip we put aside is going to be tested again later. So all the chips we have here, we're all going to clean them and test again using some methods, resistance and everything. Make sure that if the values are good, it gets a second chance at being used. So sometimes we will pick up, a working chip from a hashboard because we first diagnosed this, we thought this chip could be bad. We realized that the issue is somewhere else, and so after all, that chip was good. So most of the time, we're able to recover those from our process. So don't ask yourself too many questions depending on the chip price, obviously, but at the moment, 17 series chips. I don't know for the competition. I know if you buy them new at the moment, they're at least 18 USD, but it makes no sense really. We sell them retinned and recycled and tested for $5 each in Canadian dollars. So that would be, I guess, 350 in US, something like that. Um, One more thing is for any viewer that's based in Canada or US, or even Mexico, because anywhere in North America, really, whenever we ship, it's gonna take a small package like chips, can take 1, 2, maybe 3 business days to get to your door. And so when you have a tight inventory, because you're a small shop or you're just, mostly doing mining for yourself, and you need some parts to do some fix, well, it's useful to buy from us just because first you'll avoid a lot of shipping expenses that you will get from China, but also a lot of delays because it can take up to 2 to 3 weeks sometimes to get your goods from China. And if you're doing repairs for yourselves, it's not too bad to wait, even though I mean it would be better for you to have your machine plugged and generating revenue. But if you're doing it for a customer, you can't wait that kind of time. So at least with us, you know it's gonna get there the same week you order it. Let's get back to that other board and see while this one cools down. So normal test, we should be getting a chip count of 65. We're still at 0. We'll see if the issue is still at the same area. Yeah, so something's going on there. 1.7. Cap still in place. Resistance still in place. Let me see. So here we don't get it, right? So if I go here, no. If I go here, I'm getting something. Why do I get a negative value the other way here? This one here, I'm intrigued. What is it giving? This one gets 0, and okay, from this one, do I get any BI? Yeah, BI is turned on there, so let's see if we go here. BI is off here. So it triggers starting here, but here I don't get any BI as well. So BI out of that chip is not there, but out of this one it's there. So BI would indicate still an issue with this chip. RX would indicate an issue with this chip. But right now, we change it 2 times and we still get the same result. Soldering looks good. One thing that I'm asking myself is I'm getting a positive value on one side of my resistance there, but I go to the other side getting that negative value there. I might just change that resistance and see what happens, because it's in the way. It's a resistance that's right on the way of the RX there. So it is possible it plays, especially when we have we made 2 changes there. So let me go and show you which one I'm talking about. All right. So this little guy there, this one, on top here I'm getting 0.7, on the other end I'm getting minus 55. So I got 2 theories right now. When I see some stuff like that, minus values on the RX on a domain change, sometimes can be the chip, the neighboring chip, that's the actual issue. But we know that those resistance sometimes they can be tricky, and since I'm measuring a positive value here but a negative there, I'm thinking this resistance is a bit weird. So we'll start by changing that resistance, and then if we still get that same kind of diagnosis, maybe we'll change the surrounding chips to see what happens. But looks like working in that area was actually there was something going on there. So it might not have been the chip that was a problem. It's possible that once we apply some heat, that resistance that we suspect here broke, like really broke, instead of being intermittent, and that's what we're seeing now. So let's go ahead and see. No other way than try. Alright, so that was pretty easy to remove. Let me just see. This one, I think it's going to be 33, but I just want to make sure that I get the good value. It's going to be the same as this one. Is it? So let's say we take this one. This one. Come on. Yeah, 33 should do. That's what I think it is. So let's take from that donor board here. Let's take that resistance there. Where's my, oh, there you go. Let's lower airspeed a bit. Go 20%. Give ourselves a chance to install. Yeah, right there. All right, got it drop there. Oh, came back to my tweezers. That can be the tricky part. Let me show you this on the microscope. Right. Ah, come on. I have to touch my tweezer, right? Yeah. All right. Like that. Perfect. That still doesn't cut it. We can try to figure it out with a jumper wire. So we'll start with that. Let's cool it down a bit, put it back to our cooling pad and see the other board. And just give it a good cleaning there because we start to have a bit of flux drops there. Yeah, nice and clean. Right. If you want to see the final result, this is what we got. You can see that resistance we installed there. That chip. So we'll see. So what time is it? 11:15 Eastern time. Let me see how long. 1 hour now. So let's give it some more time and try to have at least those two boards fixed, and then we'll probably let Ahmad start his T17E stream as well while I go and do other stuff I need to do. But let's get those two fixed. I believe we have time. Zero is it from this one too now? Great. So what is it with this board? If I come back here. Oh, I'm not getting this here. Hmm. Actually, this one here. No, this one here. I should see. I'm getting output there. Should be getting something out of this. Or is it breaking? This one here. So this is 19. It's going this way here. Oh, what's happening? Not getting my MOSFET gates open, it seems. Let's try something. So this here, let's just try to see. I would need some wire. I would need some wire to test. Because what we can do is try to skip the MOSFETs and see if the issue really lies there. Let me just go grab some wire quick and show you some small tip I have for those issues. All right. Meshal has been writing when I was gone. What do you recommend between A10 862D and Quake X 861? Well, it's a good thing you're asking the question because I'm in authority to answer since I've tested both, and really the A10 is by far the best choice. Really. Um, all right, so let me. Well, let's just try to see if we can use this heatsink there to inject, but I think we'll need to go and touch further. Let's try it like this. Um, if I go here, oh, that's not working. This one's close. All right, so this wire is attached here. Let's skin this a bit more, like so, and attach this here. Normally, I believe I did so correctly. I have not been doing that a lot, but I did sometimes, and I'm not sure if I did it correctly, but yeah, I can see my current already being drawn. So you can see now, right now, I'm not touching the tester, okay? I'm just going here, right away here, and so, all right, so it shows that we still really do have an issue there. So it seems like either the chips I'm using right now or the chips I'm using right now or my installation wasn't done properly. It's possible. But one thing you can see though is right now my so you can see on the power supply my current is being drawn already from the power supply. The tester is not doing nothing. But let's say I go and look at this domain here. Well, it was here. See, we can make some measurements already. So I'm skipping the MOSFETs with that trick, and I'm able to see if my problem has a source, has any source on that side of the power distribution circuit, or if it's after. Right now I know that this part here is for sure good because my power is making it through the rest of the board. Now I do have this issue that I need to figure out and fix, and it's probably just my bad. So we'll stop this here. We'll let the wire for now because we'll be able to test it again and I'll be able to show you what it does after. But in any case, we'll have to change that chip again, it seems. So let's go ahead and do just that. So that's two bad installs so far, it seems. Not sure why. Normally the 17 series I have don't have too many issues. Can you show what you did on the microscope? Yeah, Michelle, just give me a sec. I'll remove that chip and we'll go ahead and have a look. All right, microscope right there. So our boost circuit here, and it's really simple. It's just a simple wire here, and I attached it. So this one is your positive side, this one is your negative side. So obviously you don't want to, you don't want to plug onto this one because this one needs to be the ground. Your ground is connected to your pole right there, so no need for it to be fed. And what you do is you simply skip the part from the MOSFET. So all of this part of the circuit, you skip it. This is all bringing your power here. And so you connect directly to this one here, which could be a capacitor or anything. You connect to that pole there and feed from there. So it's skipping the MOSFETs, which are gates that are opening or closing. So even if the gates are closed or whatever it is, if you shoot directly here, it's going to make its way to the rest of the boost circuit there and to the rest of the board as well. Really as simple as that. All right, so let's clean the area and reinstall a chip. Hopefully it's not my installation and it's the chips that I've used that are bad. I did prepare those chips pretty quickly, so it's possible there are some bad there, but they should be. Most of them should be good. Let's pick this one. And you just know it's not a chip type problem or anything of such because this board I know is A8V2 AG bin 2 and the chips I'm installing right now on is exactly that. But really, like we mentioned really many times, the type should not be of any influence. There are some very rare instances of boards which seems to be rejecting a chip that's not the same type. But all in all boards can use any of the BM1397 chips. You'll get obviously better results from AI chips. By the way, I am using the decentral overclock and it is amazing. Happy to read. So Michel is using our Vinish version at the moment for overclocking his units. And yeah, it's running, especially on 17 series, it's running very smooth Vinish. It's probably one of the best custom firmware running on 17 series. Brains is pretty decent as well, and I think for 19 series is gonna be very relevant. And we're also a distributor of Brains OS. You can contact them if you have any doubts, but we are an authorized distributor for Brains, so you can go ahead and download that confidently from our website and install to your machine. And it's real Brains OS, nothing funny, no funny business, because sometimes, and it's a good thing, you want to be cautious with what you're going to be installing on your units, right? It's the software, and the software is is the core of what's happening in that unit. So you want to make sure that it's actually trustworthy, it's not filled with virus or anything like that. That's one of the nice features though that comes with Vanish is you do have an antivirus and a if-use protection against unplanned firmware changes that can happen. I've seen some farms, mining farms, being infected, and it takes one infected unit for the whole farm to get infected after if you don't have proper controls in that farm. And so it's unfortunately something we see a lot of times when I visit farms. Most of the times they don't have failovers or security measures in place for that kind of stuff. And so a lot of people, I think, are at threat for viruses on their units. In any case, you want to be very careful of what you're installing on your unit. And so if you want to verify, you can always verify with the Vanish team and BrainOS team that we are indeed authorized redistributors of those. Alright, so the chip install is looking good to me. Hopefully this time we'll cut it. So let's get back to that other board while this one cools down. Hopefully the resistance change we did on this one is gonna help us make it through the next problem, if there's any remaining. Something inside of me feels like we aren't done with this board. Let's go ahead and look. Tester is not responsive, there you go. Alright. Getting the same here. And getting the same here. Alright, so let's not waste any more time on this and change the neighbor chip there. And if I still got issues after that, I think I'll... Oh, one more thing I could have done though. You could just try to jump and see. Let's just do that quick. Let me take this one. Actually, let's just measure. We have our 0.8, 1.8. We have 1.8 here, so we'll go and fetch from this one. So, Michelle, you probably will like it if I bring the microscope for this. So let's go ahead and do that. All right. So let me take this here. Launch the test, and we'll go ahead and take 1.8 from here. And it's nothing here, so let's try to short 1.8 with this one here. Get nothing. Let's try to short with the next one. See what we got there? So let me try to, so you can see on the middle of the screen, bottom middle of the screen, you can see one of my pins. This is the LDO capacitor for 1.8 volt. I just removed it. And see this one here, I'm jumping to the RX here. So I'm jumping over this one chip here. Jumping over this chip made me get signal. And it made me get my signal with clock up to here. So it looks like this chip has to be changed. Like I suspected when I said, you know, it might be a neighboring chip when you see a domain change like that and you get negative values. First, I wanted to see if it was my resistance because it happens from time to time. But now we know it's not a resistance, and we have an even further confirmation with that jumping we just did. So let's go ahead, add some flux, change that chip, and see again. What size of nozzle? I mean, I probably you meant nozzle. Do you use and when do you need to change it? So are you speaking about the heat gun nozzle? Maybe this one? I'm using the one that's 45 degree like that, uh, the bent one, and decent size. I wouldn't know the exact size. I need to go and check back to the sheet when we bought it. But this is the one I'm using. This is the nozzle I like to work with for my hair station. Obviously, this is for most ASIC repair, say Antminer, WhatsMiner, stuff like that. ASIC chips changes, pardon me, that I like to use this one. When we used to do Silicon A10 upgrades, we would use bigger nozzles because you need to heat the whole RAM card. I don't have any here to show you, but it was a whole RAM module you need to heat, and we wanted to gain speed doing those manipulations because you had 24 RAM modules to change per machine when you do the upgrades from 4 to 5 gigs, but if you go to 6 gigs, it's 48 RAM modules, and we did like 1,600 of those, I think, units. So that's a lot of RAM modules to change. So for those, obviously, yeah, we use bigger nozzles, but for the ASIC repair, the bent one like this, it's pretty standard. If you look at most of the resellers for A10 862D that sell with the top there, they're gonna sell it with that bent one that I'm using. All right. Let's get the chip. Oops. Yeah. So Michelle, you say you're using our firmware. I'm wondering, did you manage to use Vinish to diagnose, with the chip map function that is under the mining profile tab? Were you able to diagnose some boards that had some weak chips that way, or even fix some boards that way? I know from time to time we can use Vinish to help us figure out the issues on our boards, and so I'm wondering if that's something that helped you in the past, or if it's something we should do a video about, maybe to show you, you and others watching, what's the tricks we're using there. So I noticed yesterday into Ahmad's stream, we started to have Twitch viewers as well. So remember, we're broadcasting this from Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter Live, Twitch Live, working on LinkedIn as well, so it gets to more people and more platforms, and so you can watch from the platform you like. The one I personally prefer is YouTube because I feel it's the more appropriate. So I invite you to go ahead and watch from our YouTube channel. But any platform that I've mentioned, you can watch from those. So Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, LinkedIn coming soon, and YouTube. And we're now at the 25th or 26th episode, I think, of episode 26th live, at least. Um, Racing our way to 100 episodes. In the meantime, we also so we don't have just the lives. We also have a lot of content we develop. We have our blog content. We have not only the blog but the blogcast. We have YouTube Shorts. We have video edits such as the waited for Pico BT tutorial. Um, and so any suggestions for lives or for content in general, or even for blog posts, go ahead and be my guest and propose some. So, hey, we made it back to get a chip count of 65 chips. This is great. This is the board. You remember we've installed that wire there. So installing that wire made us realize that the issue really is on that side of the board, at least here. But we know this here was good. We could measure some voltage there. So we know this is good. The actual issue remaining was our chip here. And it seems that this chip here that I've installed as well is at least passing the chip count. So let's go ahead and see our advanced mode. And what are we getting? All right, still an issue there. So let's go and find that issue. And still here. No, 1.8. This is broke somewhere. 0.2, 0.2, 1.3, 1.7. So that's 1.7 here. 1.5 there. So same domain that we've worked on. 1.750 there. Yeah, let's go to this one. Now this one seems to be source of noise on the same domain. So it is worth taking a chance and changing this one. I wonder. Well, sometimes that can be less explicit with the advanced mode testing, but jumping can also help figure out some issues even in advanced tests. So what we can do maybe is remove that heatsink and try to see if we have our LDO that's working properly around that chip, and try to jump and see if we can make the board come green. Well, first let's measure. This one here, right? Yeah, 1.7. So I'll take this. 0. No. Where's my flux? Here it is. First, screen a bit. Just redo the pads a bit right there because I've knocked that chip while I was eating the neighbor one. Perfect. Yeah. Should this one. This one is looking great. My Does my microscope go out? Looks like the microscope stopped following the picture there. Let's go back to the main screen. But yeah, it looks like the microscope glitched there. That's great. So stream is still good, but the microscope went out for some reason. So the only way I'm going to be able to bring it back is when we start the new stream. Let's try to finish this board, see the other one, the results, and we'll scan what we do. They both have a bit of a bigger ball that I would like to get rid of here. And here. Alright, let's get back to eating a bit. Alright, that should do it. Let it, let's let it cool down and inspect that other board we worked on, see if it's doing any better now. Hmm. Still seems to be at 0 ASIC. Hmm. But we do have our 1.7 going through now, so we did eliminate that issue we had right there. Let me show you that. 1.7 right there. You can see. So this issue there is fixed, but we still have something going on. Just try to start the test again because the tester was acting a bit weird. So let's just see. Yeah. Zero time sensor. So still some kind of issue there. Let's see if it's still related to this here. But it's a fairly stable 17 here, so that should be alright. But here is something else. So let's try to go and see in that domain switch there. Here it's weird. Let's just see the one that precedes it. I'm gonna bet it's gonna be alright. Yeah. So this one right here, you'll notice RX often breaks on domain changes. So now it seems to be this one here that's more painful on that domain there. Same domain that this chip was causing issues with. So at least we made it through that issue there. It took us more time than it should have, but we managed to go through it. So now let's go and tag the next issue. Hopefully the other board we worked on is going to be somewhat alike. We made it through some of our issues there, but still haven't completely identified the root cause of our pain. So remember those two boards, they were testing good when we started. Well, they started at 0 ASICs, but quickly became all green. So intermittent board like this can be a bit more complicated to fix. And sometimes the issue to this is to do a massive reflow to the whole board. And And then two outcomes. Either the board is going to be fixed from the reflow, or sometimes it's actually going to show the actual issue on the board. And so sometimes you're going to be able to say, oh, C chip 50 now is not passing through, but you get rid of a lot of that funny noise that you can read like we're reading now, by doing proper reflow and making sure that everything, all the connections are good there. Almost 2 hours and still no working boards, but at least those two should be fixed very shortly. So still 5 minutes to make it to our objective of one hashboard an hour. Let's try to get that. And the 2 hour stream is probably going to be more than enough for me because I need to go and attend to some more stuff. For those still watching right now, remember that Ahmad should be jumping on the stream as well very shortly. So soon after I end, probably 30 minutes to 1 hour after I'm done, he's gonna hop in for another streak of 2-3 hours of streaming probably. Um, so today's streams aren't done. What do we get now? All right, so we're making progress. Uh, so this one here. Clock is too high on this one. I think I might be missing a resistance there. Let me just see. Am I stupid or... Nope, there's a resistance missing, and it's the resistance of my clock. So let me show you. And that's probably... Ah, yeah, the microscope is not... is stuck for some reason. So that's a shame. I'll make that change quick. Let me just go and grab the resistance I need from there. Um, just in case that some of that information is relevant to someone or whatever. Should not be, but let's be careful. All right, this here. Yeah, definitely missing my resistance right there. This one right there. Let's lower the one speed. I'll get back to reading that message just in a moment. Alright, well that seats. ASIC Repair Yildium is asking, what do I do when I get all red on advanced mode? Yeah, we'll see that. But most of the time, you'll notice that either your BI or your RX is breaking somewhere. And the other thing you can do is one thing that I've just shown maybe 10 or 15 minutes ago is to jump your RX and try to pinpoint whenever you do a manipulation that's going to bring back some green to your board, and depending on which chip you're jumping over, it should tell you which chip is probably the faulty one. But yeah, mostly look at the RX and BI signal in advanced mode, and that should 95% of the time do the trick. So now what we just did, so we've installed that chip there, um, and this one. So both of those two we had to change. This one, I don't know if it's a bad manipulation on my end or if it was already the case, but was missing a resistance. So what we see now is our RX clearly is making its way back to the first chip from the last to the first. We're able to get a clock measurement and we're ending at 41. Looking at 41, I went and make my measurement. I got 1.7 volt, but 1.7 reading on the touch point was influenced by the fact that I didn't have a resistance just higher on that trace. So when I followed back on that trace, I wanted to see if out of the chip I'm getting the right value. I could see that on the first pad of that missing resistance, I was getting 0.87, which is something I expect. And so I do expect that just by adding that resistance, we at least should be able to move to another problem or have that board solved once and for all. So we'll see. But in any case, I don't expect us to still be stuck at 41 after that change. All right, so let's just still give this board a bit of cooldown. Go back to this one here. See if we made any progress. So remember, at first we had this issue here. We suspected the resistance that didn't help. We changed this chip, which we identified by jumping over with the jumping wire. I showed the technique, so you can go back, and if we need, I'll do it again so you can see. And so we jumped over that chip. We made it. We made the signal go through the RX. When we've started to measure again, we see that between those two, during the domain switch, there was a weak value from this one. Sometimes it's impacted by the following one, so we'll see if that is the case in this case. But for now, I was suspecting this chip, so this is the one we changed, and we'll see if that made its weight, or no. We can have our multimeter ready if we need to make measurements. And the test is on. We're getting 0 ASIC, so still something breaking somewhere. Let's see at this one here. So this chip, no, it doesn't get nothing. So what's happening now? One 1.7, so now this one. So I feel like this board would have been a perfect candidate for reflow, and now we're creating ourselves a bit more job because we didn't reflow at first. But I wanted to show a bit how we do those diagnose with that kind of intermittent board. But remember, whenever you see intermittence, you want to go for a reflow first because it's almost always going to result in that kind of endless hunt. And whenever one of the neighbor chip receives some heat, now the profile might change a bit. Um, Everything is in place there, nothing is missing, resistance is there. We can try to go with just a simple reflow of that one, or we can change the chip right away. We'll try to go with a reflow this time. As you prepare Yodium, thank you. What can I do when I have 4 temp sensors not found? Well, it's almost always a chip issue. So when you don't have any temp sensors found, um, and I assume the whole thing is green or is it red? If it's all green, well, two things. Still, you can jump. So jumping until you get temp sensors showing on your advanced test. Or if it's all red, again, I believe you should be seeing some weak RX, or you should be seeing some noise on your BI at some point. So really looking at those two is should be helpful, especially if you have the 4 temp sensors dead, because the 4 are embedded on 17 series into your ASIC chip circuit, and so for sure the 4 temp sensors aren't dead. So for sure it's something somewhere that's not transmitting correctly, and most of the transmission, the data transmission, is done through the return signal. So it's the last chip sending over all of the back to all the through all the chips back to the control board. So this one I would have a look to. If your RX itself is good, maybe have a look at your CT1F converters right there, U1, U2. Those two chips can be tricky and are very critical for a well-functioning return signal and for the transmission to the control board. And so make sure that, or to your tester. So make sure that your CT1F are working, U1, U2, and make sure that your RX and BI isn't, sick anywhere on the board. Michelle is saying some eat the chip from bottom. What do you think? Yeah, I do sometimes. I'll do that trick mostly. Well, I'll do it when I want to have really, clean installs. And so personally, I'm a bit of a perfectionist sometimes. So when I install the capacitors that are right there, I don't like it when you see the distinction between the legs from the capacitor and the pads, right? So I'll put a good amount of tin with my iron, and then I'll eat a bit from bottom with a bit of flux, and it's gonna do those very gradual, super shiny, super roundy legs that are really merged together and really solid and great looking. So I use it mostly for aesthetics. Other than that, I will eat from bottom mostly on the latest gens. So again, 19 series, D7, L7. The boards are more thicker. The soldering is more hard to work with. So if it's possible, if it's on the borders of the board, if it's in the center, at the moment I don't have a proper setup to eat on the center of the board and place my board and know that this chip is getting the heat. So I need to look under, and so I'll do it on the sides of the board. Um, so it's working great. I have nothing against or for it. It's especially great when you have a soldered part that's really well soldered and you need to apply heat and you don't want to infect the surrounding areas. Same goes if you have, say, for instance, here we have the IO port that's a plastic plug. Maybe you want to work that area here. Maybe you remove a resistance or a capacitor right there. Eating from bottom is better because you're gonna get that heat go through the PCB and to the parts, so the solder melts. You remove the part you need to remove without hurting the plastic part that's not going to be able to handle that kind of heat. So yeah, that's it. So these boards are starting to take a bit too much time, but it's probably related to the fact that we should have reflowed them given the issue we were seeing. Did I press that right? No. 19.4 on the power supply. Normal test, we should getting a 65 chip count, which we are getting right there. And now let's go and see with our, and it's starting to dance again. Let's go and see with our advanced testing mode what it's saying. Zero. And let's just see if the issue is still here or if we made some progress. 1.7, so that's good. Here, what does it say? No, here we still have an issue. This one here going to here 1.7. Now it's this one. So see, I'm getting pretty confident that the reflow would have done a good would have been really helpful to us, and we probably would have wasted much less time on that board. So all the other boards, I have other boards that I've brought for the stream because I thought we would have time to squeeze them in. But they're all from the same customer, all the same batch, and I think they're all gonna need some reflow to do some serious fixing after. So let's try and see. I've just reflowed that one chip here that was giving us some issues. Did the same with the other board we were working on, and we'll see if the chips are really sick or if the board is just really in need of a good and strong reflow. So at least we're gonna end the stream on that note, and we'll be able to start the next one on T17E pretty shortly. Michelle, if I have a damaged MOSFET and all MOSFET cannot be replaced because the PCB is totally burned, how can I bypass the MOSFET? Well, it's not something I'm a fan of, but you can always, bypass the MOSFETs by using one of those, you take from a scavenged board those platings there. So let me show you. And unfortunately, the microscope scam also bugged during the stream, so now I have to come and show you here. So you know those bars you have right there? You can just take out some of those and come and bridge between the burnt MOSFET on the two ends, right? So it's gonna make its way through. It's not something I'm a fan of because the MOSFETs act as gates for your hashboard, and so this is what opens and closes and shuts down your board if needed. Now your board won't shut down if you need it to, if you just jump it, short it with those plates, obviously. So there are some risks. I don't see any like fire hazards risk or anything like that, but there are some risks to the well-being of your board in the future, for sure. If it needs to shut down and it's not able to, it's possible it creates some damage to some other components. All right, so we made some progress and see this one chip we just reflowed. So it confirms that those boards are in need of a good reflow to get those solders and those cold solder joints back, melted together. So we'll stop wasting some time on those. Let's just end that stream for now. S17 Plus, at least we've managed to see a lot of good tricks and we made our way through a lot of the problems we had today. There is no final victory, but I'm pretty sure a good reflow of those boards is gonna do most of the fixing we need. So we can stop wasting our time on this. So coming up next is going to be the Antminer T17E stream. It's going to be with my colleague Ahmad, which should be on in between 30 minutes to 1 hour, I'm pretty sure. So tune in at say 1 o'clock, 1:30 o'clock, and we should be back up with T17E's dashboard fixing. So thanks for watching. Thanks for all the good comments, guys. We appreciate it. That's why we do it. We appreciate the community we're building around ASIC repairs and mining. Any comments, any content you want us to come up with, go ahead and be our guest. Let us know, and we'll make our best to produce that for you guys. So see you very shortly. I'll probably be in the chat from time to time for the other stream. So if you want to go ahead and chat with me, be my guest. Talk to you soon, guys.